Hi, I'm Daniel James, and welcome to this week's Live Wire. My special guest, in fact, my extra special guest this week, is a rock and roll legend. You know, she hails from Michigan in the United States. In the 1970s, she knocked it out of the park, and she's still knocking it out of the park now with her new release with KT Tunstall. Welcome to this week's Live Wire, Suzi Quatro.
Thank you very much. That was a nice intro. I think I'll stick around.
Yeah, give us 5 minutes.
Yeah.
So listen, welcome to the show, Suzi. It's great to have you on board this week. Obviously, we're going to talk about your current single, your collaboration with KT Tunstall, and we're going to play the video later. But as a long-term fan of yours, as you know, a lot of our viewers will be, if it's okay with you, I just want to go back to that young girl in Michigan in the 1960s. And just talk about the early days a little bit, because I think it's fascinating, your life. You know, you were in a band with your sisters. Were you in Fanny?
But my elder sister, who we started the band together, she went on to join Fanny in the, I think, like around 75, 76, 77. And she's, in fact, they've got a documentary coming out, and she's been involved in that. But yeah, I started young. I started in music as a child because the whole family was musical. But then at 14, we started the first band. So I picked up the bass. That was it. That was it.
Was it true that your dad bought you a bass guitar, a Fender?
Yes, my dad. Well, when we decided to form the band, we had a couple of sisters on the phone and another girl, and we were, to seeing the Beatles on TV. And all the girls, real quickly, I want to play this. I want to play this. I want to play this. And I didn't speak up, which is very unlike me. And I said, hey, wait a minute. Excuse me. I already played piano and drums. And my elder sister said, you're going to play bass. So I went to my dad, who was a musician. And I said, do you have a bass guitar? We're starting a band. And he gave me, and I love saying this because when I tell this to musicians, I think they'd like to choke me. You know, they get so jealous. My dad gave me a 1957 Fender Precision as my first bass. I say it was destined that I was going to be a good bass player. I learned on the hardest and the best. I had no idea. I didn't know there were smaller basses. I didn't know there were lighter basses. All I knew was my father gave me that bass, and that's what I learned.
And how did you learn it? Who was your, you know, who did you copy? Whose finger work? I mean, what inspired you on the bass?
Well, I've always been percussive kind of musician anyway, because like I said, I played bongos and I played drums in the school orchestra, and I played classical piano, and classical piano is classed as a percussive instrument. So I've always been that way anyway. And the good thing about me is I'm not a failed guitar player. I'm a bass player in my soul. And this makes a difference. It's one of the things I teach when I do my master bass classes. Don't be a failed guitar player. Bass guitar. It's the engine. That and the drums are the engine that drives the song.
So you learned a lot of music, you know, you learned your instruments at school. When you were doing that, when you were very young, was there any vision in your mind of taking it forward? Or was it not until you were 14-ish and, you know, the bands came about? Was it always in you, do you think?
I had my first epiphany at the age of 5.5. And every time I tell the story, it amazes me, but I always say truth. I don't make stuff up. I just say what happened. We were watching the Ed Sullivan Show with the family, which was regular Sunday night viewing. The whole family stopped. And at the end of the show, he would always bring out something for the youngsters. So he brings out Elvis Presley, who starts to sing, "Don't Be Cruel." I'm 5.5. My elder sister starts to scream. She's 14.5, so just the right age. And I'm looking at her going, what are you screaming for? What's the matter with you? And then I looked at the TV. I went into the TV, and a light bulb moment at 5.5, I'm going to do that. I didn't even think I'm a girl, he's a guy. I didn't even think this. So this bit me very, very early on. It was like a revelation, you know, and I always remember that happening. What a crazy thought to have at that age.
It's very unique, isn't it? I mean, but your whole career is you know, it's a unique passage along the way, because you're a trailblazer, you know, playing the bass. I can remember, you know, watching you on Top of the Pops in the UK, and you're standing there in the full leather, and you've got the bass, but you're not just playing the bass, you're wearing that bass, you're eating that bass. It's low slung, and it's like you're dominating that bass. It's doing what you want it to do. That obviously started at a young age.
It's so funny. So some of my friends that know me, so other musicians, one of them in particular, she's a girl, she comes from Australia, Ned Allison. She plays with me out there. She said to me one time, "You were born with a bass in your hand." I said, "Okay." It is natural looking, isn't it? It just suits me. It just suits me.
But isn't it funny that your sister said to you, because she could have said, you know, oh, play the drums, or she could have said, you know, play the guitar or whatever. It's I think fate plays a huge part in our lives, don't you?
I think that definitely was fated. Why did she choose that and give it to me? And why did I not even question it?
Yeah.
I just went, okay.
Because you're not known for being a shy girl, are you?
No. Everybody says, oh, you play this huge bass. Well, I don't play a huge bass. I play a normal bass. I'm a small bass player.
Yeah. But you're ballsy. That's what, but you're ballsy. So listen,
Yes.
Suzi, you're in the Pleasure Seekers with your sisters. You had a single out that I think, well, you had a couple of singles out. I think one of them was on Mercury Records. And then am I right in thinking that your brother Michael was kind of being a bit of a manager and you got Mickey Most in to see the band?
Yeah, it had changed from the Pleasure Seekers to Cradle.
Right.
And at that point, I was always the main upfront person. You know, I was the show. And they all wanted to change and try writing our own music, getting heavier. And we brought my little sister, a very good singer, and I went back. So at this point, my brother got Mickey Most to come and see the band. It was called Cradle.
Did Mickey just happen to be in the States at that time?
Mickey found out, my brother Mickey found out that he was coming over to use Motown Studios with Jeff Beck and Cozy Powell. So he said, let's get him to see the band. He saw the band with Jeff Beck and Cozy Powell, and he only wanted me. He didn't want the band. He said, I want to offer you a solo contract. So that was the second offer I had had in 1 week to go solo.
Was the other one Elektra?
Yes, Elektra Records, Jack Holtzman. It's so, you know, when you have two offers in 1 week, it's time to go. You have to take that serious, you know? So I thought, okay, here's my shot. And Jack said, I'm going to take you to New York and make you into the next Janis Joplin. Mickey said, I'd like to take you to England and make you into the first Suzi Quatro.
What a smooth talker that Mickey Most was. He knew the way to a girl's heart.
Bless him. I loved him to pieces. Oh.
Suzi, can I just ask you, do you ever think, because obviously you went to London and we'll talk about that in a minute, but do you ever think to your head, what if I hadn't? Because come on, a young girl, it's a big move coming to the UK. You've never been here before. Do you ever think to yourself, what if I'd signed with Elektra? Do you ever think that, what the path would have been different?
I kind of belong to the school of everything happens as it should and everything happens for a reason and it happens when it should. I believe in following your instincts. This is where my instincts took me. There is no other path. I was going here, but I think I would have been successful no matter what I did do, because that's what I was determined. I was going to make it in the music business. Done. That's a no-brainer. That's non-negotiable. So whichever path I did take, I think I would have been successful, but I took the right path. Definitely.
So I mean, how were your parents? You know, this British guy comes along, Mr. Smooth Talker, you know, and he wants you to fly to England. Was there any trepidation from your parents or from, you know, you're young, you know, if you're not just going to New York, you're coming to England. Was there any discussion about this, or was it just Suzi's going to do it?
Well, there was some discussion because my father knew I had both offers. And obviously, they would have preferred me to stay in the States and take the American offer. And I remember going in. I mean, you must watch Suzi Q, the documentary that is in there. I do remember going into the bedroom and saying to my mom and dad, they were in the bedroom, we had the discussion. And I said, I'm going to take the English offer. And my mom started to cry. She said, oh, that way. But they didn't stop me. But my dad only said one thing. I never forgot it. He said, you do know that your sisters won't make it without you. That was it. Everything to lay on my shoulders. I kind of went for a minute, but I think maybe he was trying to make me be really sure as well. But I looked at him for a minute. It took me a minute. And then I said, Dad, I have to go. This was my shot, you know, and I knew it. And you don't turn that down.
But that was your test. It's almost as if that was his testing moment. Because if you'd have went, oh, well, I'll stay and help my sisters, that would have been almost like your fire wouldn't have been as burning as it was.
No.
So that
And you
was
know,
your test.
the funny thing about that is, it just reminded me, it's the opening line in Shine a Light. Opportunity knocked on my door. I chose to let it in.
Yeah.
That's what happened. That's exactly what happened.
It's a two-way game, this destiny thing, and we play a part of it. It's just when we know the moment is right to seize it. And you did. Maybe youth played a big part in it, because when you're young, you don't think about the consequences as much, do you? You just want that goal.
I'm kind of that kind of person. I'm very determined. Everybody that knows me well says I'm very determined. I was going there, and nothing was going to stop me. I knew what I wanted, and nothing did stop me. Even no success for a while, that didn't stop me.
I'm just going to ask a little cheeky question, really, but before we move on, because there's so much to say. You left your sisters behind, as your dad said, they won't make it without you. Has there ever been any kind of mention of the fact that you did that and they didn't get the success? Was there anything in, siblings, rivalry or whatever?
I think there's always going to be a bit of that, even, going back and forth with all of us. But we have whatever problems we had in the past with any of this, we've now laid the ghost and put it all to bed. We're all fine. Patty's enjoying a second wave along with Fanny. She's doing all the promotions, so she's getting her kudos there. My little sister never really cared. We talk about that all the time. She wasn't determined to be in the business. And my elder sister, she dropped out on husband number 2, and she's now on husband number 7. So we've resolved all our issues. Everything's fine. I think the main bad feelings were more in the beginning than later,
Well, it must have been funny. It must have been funny for them seeing you leave for the airport and go off to this England and God knows what, and they're still stuck in Michigan. It must have been strange for them.
But they did keep the band going. I have to say, they got another girl in and another sister, and they kept Cradle going for a while, and they worked and everything. And then Patty got the call to go out and join Fanny, so which she did. She was, I think, for 2 or 3 years. So. And like I said, Nancy didn't care, but Patty was the one that really wanted it. So she kept it going, and she's doing it again now. So good for her, So
everything happens for a reason. So you fly to England, and obviously Mickey put you up somewhere for a year, and you're working, and songs are coming through. And then you had, am I right in thinking you had a single called Rolling Stone, which hit number 1 in Portugal? Did you phone home to your mum and dad and say, hey, I'm number 1 in Portugal?
I had it in my head the whole time since I landed in the UK that I would not go home again without a hit. I just wouldn't do it. And I didn't. Mm-hmm. So only in Portugal. That was a great one. But after that, I started to get a little bit stir crazy, because I was walking with my Les Paul recording bass, which weighs more than I do, all the way to Earl's Court and back, and writing up on the top and recording. I was not liking it without other band members. It was starting to get on me. I felt very alone. So I told Mickey that I wanted to form a band. I said, this is not good for me. So he said, okay. So then I formed the band. Everything started to take off from here. I formed a band, and we started to do, with the band members, my own composition. So then it took on a shape and a style. Mm-hmm. We did the college circuit. And then Mickey got us to be put on the this is 72, November 72.
Did you do the Thin Lizzy tour? Did you do?
I had 15 minutes in the beginning, and then Thin Lizzy came on, and then Slade. So by the end of that tour, we had our sound and our style, to tell you the truth. We did. And then Mickey said, I'd like to bring on Mike Chapman and Nicky Chin, because they're very good at writing the 3-minute hit. Do you mind? And I said, not at all. So Mike came and watched the show, which was all original, very doom, da doom, da doom, da doom. That was what I was writing. And he went away that night and he wrote Can the Can. And then he brought it in. And all the band members, I have to say, equally important, they all put their little bit of musicality on it and made it into what it is. And it's 50 years this year of it being number 1.
With
incredible. You blew
Incredible.
onto Top of the Pops. I was a very young boy, and you know, we'd not seen anything like you before. You know, a woman in leathers with a low slung bass, and you just stormed it. And you know, the next day everyone was talking about you at school, you know, and probably in offices and wherever. And also, the thing about you is you didn't just creep up the charts. Your songs blasted in. Yeah.
I'll do anything slow. I have no patience. I have no patience. Give me the number one now.
Well, I mean, not only did you then have number one with Can the Can, you got 48 Crash, you got Devilgate Drive. I mean, you were on that highway and you were thundering down the road. You were knocking it out of the park. And I presume at that point you were touring Europe, doing promo, and the whole machine was going. How did that feel? Because obviously you'd had the year where you were building and forming the band, and then suddenly there wasn't a 25 hit, there wasn't a 17 hit. You went straight to number one and then followed it up with more number ones. What was going on in you at that time?
You've got to, luckily I've been raised in the business, so I didn't get carried away. I think I had, to be honest, I had 1 hour, 1 24-hour of ego tripping. I remember it happening.
What did you do?
Champagne arrives from the record company, you know, flowers, this, that. And I remember being on top of the world, look at me, aren't I great? And then I remember the next morning waking up and looking in the mirror and saying, you idiot, you're exactly the same person you always were. So 24 hours, that's all. And it was done. But I let myself go through that. I am very feet on the ground. I take fame as it should be taken. That you are, I'm lucky that I have my chosen profession and I'm successful. That makes me feel very lucky. I treat it as a profession like my father taught me. My feet are on the ground at all times. And I have an ego room on my 3rd floor of my house. So that's where I keep it, up on the 3rd floor.
So you never went through the throw the telly out the window moment then?
Oh, I did that one time. I had one great room wreck, and it was after being on the road for 8 months nonstop. And we ended up in Australia, and I decided time for a room wreck. I only did it the one time, but it was a good one.
Good for you. You felt better afterwards.
I did. I had to let some steam off. I really did. I understand how it happens, you know. But yeah, it was like our last gig and we went mad, you know. So.
Well, you were huge in Australia as well. The one country that even when you had, you know, your hits had dried up here a little bit in the UK, Australia was so dedicated to you. You know, they loved you.
I'm legend there. We have this relationship. I don't even know how to explain it, but it's like an
I think it's you and ABBA. They've never got over you and ABBA. You're both huge.
In fact, little known fact, when I started to have hits there, I beat the Beatles for record sales. And then ABBA came along and beat me. So we're in good company, you know. And I still tour there. I'm about to do my 38th tour next February of us. 38th tour. Jeez.
Fantastic.
Oh, we've grown up together, you know. It's nice. You get the whole generations all over the world, whole generations of families coming, which is brilliant. And you know, this year is 50 years now since Can the Can was number one. Yeah.
You talked about the fact that, you know, you come over to the UK, you put the band together, you met Nicky Chin and Mike Chapman, who were legendary. I mean, they wrote for Blondie, absolutely. You know, it's such a hit makers, you know. Were you happy the fact that they were writing the singles? That didn't bother you?
No, there was such a, not at all. There was a real understanding between us, you know. I wrote most of the albums and I've had my own single releases too, but now I do everything. But back then, just I rock the boat when it's working well, you know. And Mike would write tailor-made for my personality, you know. So there was one time I was doing just to show you how intertwined we were, I was doing the vocal for Mama's Boy, which was one of my own compositions, one of my singles. And I was singing in the studio and I stopped singing and I said to Mike Chapman, next time you write me a song, can you please give me some breathing space to sing? He said, Suzi, you wrote this one. So to illustrate how connected we were. Yeah. So it was fine. It lasted as long as it lasted, you know.
Well, from that moment that he introduced you to those two guys, and then you ended up signing to Mike Chapman on Dreamland for a year, didn't you? So you obviously had a really good bond, timing wise, yes. You know.
Very, very good. Yes. Mike is always been a good friend of mine. Nicky Chin I've known forever as well. So yeah, It was good times, and we had a good friendship, and we still do.
And when you were touring around the world, was it touring that kept you going? You know, because obviously TV is draining and exhausting and stuff. You must have loved the touring.
I love live. This is what I was put on this earth to do. I was put on this earth to entertain. I know this for a fact. So the more gigs I can do, the better. And since 2015, I've been doing my solo shows with an interval, 2 hours with an interval. Iconic calls, even the Opera House in Sydney, did the Royal Albert Hall last April. My favorite kind of shows, because it's just me. They'll all come to see me, which I like, and I can take you through the whole rainbow. I can play the drums, I can play the piano, I can do a ballad, I can do all the hits, I can do the album tracks, I can do my 5.5-minute bass solo. It's fantastic. It's my dream show. My dream show I'm doing now.
When you were number one with Can the Can and 48 Crash, what was it like when you told your parents this? Because it must have been funny for them. They're in the States, and here you are, this huge star. And I can't underestimate, to anyone around the world that didn't know, in the 70s, you were on every magazine, you know, you were just on every poster. What was it like trying to explain to your parents how big you were? Did they come over ever? I mean, did they ever see it?
They came over a lot. The first Christmas they came over. I took them to Top of the Pops for the Christmas #1 special. That was fun. I took my dad on tour to Australia one time after my mother had passed. My dad used to always say, whenever he was in England, he'd say, "God bless Can the Can." He didn't even drink, but they understood. I think it's illustrated more. I took them in Detroit to the first concert back in my home country with my English band. And I was supported by Kiss and Blue Oyster Cult. Big gig. I rented a limousine. I did the whole thing. Look, Mom, what I can do. So anyway, we did the show. It was great. And we're driving home in the limousine, and my mother's in the front seat. And I said, "Mom, how did you like the show?" And she said, I'll never forget it. She said, "Well, Susan, it was very nice, but did you have to stand with your legs so far apart?" And my answer was yes, because you don't think about how you're standing. Rock and roll does that to you. Yeah.
But you know you're in trouble when they give you your full name, Susan. Do you know what I mean? Funny enough, I was reading something where I don't know whether this quote is right. It said that you were quite solitary as a teenager, even though you were extrovert, and that you never really got close to your mum till you'd come to the UK. Did it change your relationship with your mum a little bit when you were living away?
My mom was perfect mom. She was a perfect mom. She was strict, black, and she taught us black. She gave me the path morally to run down. Not that I'm a perfect person, I'm not, but at least she gave me a good example. You know, my parents didn't drink or smoke. I had a really good, I got closer to her when I went away because I missed her. How I realized, you know, I'm gone. Then I'm going, oh my God. She knew me. I couldn't fool my mother for 5 seconds. If she asked me a question and I was telling a lie, she knew it. And she gave me that wonderful bit of advice. I remember she said to me as a kid, she said, "Did you do such and such?" And I said, "No." And she said, "Susie, don't lie." And I looked at her like that. She said, "Because you can't. Your face shows everything." So what she gave me in a roundabout way was the fact that I can't lie. That's kind of good. I don't even try because I think I can't get away with it. So I don't, I'm always in trouble.
Just moving on a little bit. So further down in the 70s, you came back. You were always releasing singles, and you had lots of hits in Australia and Europe. You had a fervent, you know, support across the world there. If You Can't Give Me Love, how did that come about? Because that was a change in style, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was done on purpose we wanted to try something different. But what happened was Mike had relocated to Los Angeles, and that was, I think, 76, and Mickey Most produced Agoraphobia, because I had by contract an album due out, and Mike had said, "I want a new start. I don't want to work with anybody I've worked with before." So he really put his head in the sand. And then I went to LA and landed the part on Happy Days for 3 seasons. And at that point, we had not worked with Mike for about a year. We got a hold of him. He came down to the audition, the first taping for Happy Days. And we went out for dinner and we said, let's work together again. He said, absolutely, I'm ready. And this time he said, I want to do something completely different. So he was thinking, he said, I want you to have a different, if we're going to get back together, let's make it something unexpected. And that night that he was going to be starting writing, he went to the premiere of Saturday Night Fever. And that's the opening line. I seen you before on the discotheque floor. You were driving me out of my mind. So he came the next day with that song. And it was a hit when we started putting it down.
Well, I've seen you before on that discotheque floor. You were driving me out of my mind. Oh, but I could have sworn that I saw something more in your eyes. Although you were surrounded by beauty unbounded, your glance is intended for me. And though I tried to hide it, I found myself looking to see. So then you took the chances, you made your advances, your touch took my breath away. But when you said hello, are you ready to go? Well, I had just one thing to say. If you can't give me love, honey, that ain't enough. Let me go look for somebody else. If you can't give me feelings with old-fashioned meanings, just stay in love with yourself. You can't give me love, love. If 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 you can't give me well, you may be the king of this discotheque thing, but honey, I ain't looking for that.
You know, it was fantastic song.
It's a beautiful track. It's a lovely combination between the music and the lyric, and your voice also, because, you know, can, as you say, you're giving it licks.
Yeah.
But if you can't give me love, you talk to us. You're stroking your partner, you know, it's lovely. Or you're just about to slap him anyway.
I actually have a very good ballad voice, and people didn't know it until then. So Mike actually said, I love the natural part of your voice. Let's use that for this. Let's put you in a comfortable key. And it worked. It's a great song. It's one of their best songs, actually. And when I was recording that in LA, at the same time, I was appearing on Happy Days. So I would be on the daytime on the set and then come at night and record. And 12 Red Roses arrived from Henry Winkler in the studio. And he said, on the little cars, he said, if you can sing as good as you can act, no wonder you're a star. I went, oh, sweet. Is that sweet? Yeah.
That's beautiful. Listen, I mean, I was going to talk about Happy Days. I'm so glad you brought it up. How did that come about? Because obviously I've read about Gary Marshall seeing your poster on his daughter's wall. Is that how it came about? Did it just evolve?
They had the script for a while. And they couldn't, Gary told me, they couldn't find the type of person they needed to play it. He wanted cute, sexy, but innocent, vulnerable, but tough. Yeah, you know, just describe myself. And also somebody who possibly could sing, because he was thinking of introducing music into the show. Mm-hmm. So they called me. I was in Japan on tour. And they said, my ex-publicist, he said, they want you to come and audition. So I flew from Japan to LA, wore my street leathers. And Gary said to me, oh, you dressed in the part. I said, what are you talking about? This is how I dress. And I met everybody, met the director, met Henry, met Ronnie, met everybody. And then they said, and I read for the part. And then they said, okay, now we need to discuss you. So go back to your hotel and we'll call you. So I went back to my hotel room, turned on the TV for a bit of something to do, sat right next to the phone. I nearly sat on the phone, and it rang. And they said, we don't just want you for the 2-part episode. We want you for 3 seasons. I said, great. And right at that second, it came on the TV. Right as I'm on the phone taking this good news, the TV said, newsflash, the king is dead. No, you can't write this stuff. It's amazing.
That 5-year-old girl who watched the King, Elvis, on the Ed Sullivan Show, then is going to be in this peak time TV series in the States network. And I mean, amazing. He's passing the baton over
I have
to
about No, I've had about, I mean, there was that first one, and then I'll just run through these quickly because I wasn't ever supposed to meet him because he's been spiritually on my shoulder, Elvis, my whole life. So 18, I saw the comeback special. We were on the road, and I decided leather was for me at the same time. Then I went to England. We recorded the first album. Before I went to England, Mickey saw the band. I only did 2 songs because I was at the back, as I said. I did one that I wrote called Brain Confusion and Jailhouse Rock, another epiphany. Then we went to England. I had my first success, made my first album. I recorded All Shook Up. Then I went to the States. All Shook Up was in the lower end of the charts. I was in Memphis. The phone rang. It was Elvis's people. He got on the phone. And he said, I've heard your version of All Shook Up, and I think it's the best since my own. Wow. And I'd like you to come to Graceland while you're in town. And I wasn't quite ready to meet him yet. Not scared, just not quite ready. And I said I was very busy, so I didn't meet him. Then that 77 happened with Happy Days. Then I come back in December to tape my first 2 episodes. Gary Marshall brings up this man. He says, Suzi, meet Nudie. He's going to be making your clothes for the series. Elvis's personal tailor. Then I recorded my song I wrote called Singing with Angels, which is my tribute to him. You can Google it. There's a great video clip of it. The Jordanaires, backing vocals, and James Burton on guitar. So it's nuts. And now I'm finally on Sun.
Well, I thought that. The record Sun label, it's like, wow.
I know you can't write this stuff. So I say I wasn't supposed to meet him. No. I don't think I was.
No.
But he's here all the time.
Yeah.
All the time.
That is amazing. When you said you went in and you read for Happy Days, now you're a rock and roller. Now I know you're a very together woman and your mum and dad brought you up and you knew the music business. Not many actors can walk into a room in Los Angeles, because I've been in those rooms, you know, I act myself, and you've got the big fish sitting around looking at you, and you've got Gary Marshall, and you had that script. I mean, you must have nailed it, but what was going on in your mind? Because sight reading's not easy for a rock singer.
No, I always knew from very young that I could act. I can do most things artistically. That's just how I am. Anything that it takes communicating. It could be singing a line or speaking a line. It doesn't matter. I can do it. So I knew I could act. And I also knew that I had to be really good. So I put all my effort into it, you know. And he threw me in the trailer with the director, Jerry Paris, who I adored. And he said to me, okay, act. So I swore at him. What do you want me to do? And he went, whoa. But it worked. It worked. I can act. Yeah. Even so Ronnie Howard said,
sorry, go on.
He said, don't ever take acting lessons. And I went, oh, why not? He said, because whatever you have is natural and acting lessons would interfere with it, which is a very sweet thing to say.
That was Ron Howard, was it?
Yeah. Yeah.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
So you're suddenly the girl that's huge in Europe is now on one of the top rated shows in the States. How did that feel? Did you have a sense of, I've made it in my own country a bit? Did you have a, you know?
Yeah, there was a bit of that, definitely, because it really, you know, catapulted me into the limelight. I mean, it's the #1 show. So everybody tuned into it, and I was Leather Tuscadero. So that was great. It was a good decision. I went home that particular Christmas. There was a 2-week break on Happy Days, and I flew back to Detroit. And so it was all over the news. Suzi Quatro returns home, Leather Tuscadero, and, you know, blah, 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 blah. And my dad had a New Year's Eve gig. And he said to me, I always remember this, do you want to come along? And I said, yes, but don't embarrass me, because I'd been in all the papers. I said, I want to keep a low profile, but yes, I'd love to come. So there I am sitting in the audience watching his gig. And he didn't ask me to come up and sing. And that's not actually what I wanted. So
be careful what you wish for.
Yeah, I know. There's me sitting there. Boy, that taught me a lesson. So I'm thinking, what's wrong with this picture? Wait a minute. I want to go up. So I went up behind him and I said, Dad. He said, oh, you want to sing, do you? I said, yeah.
I love it.
Know, he knew better. He knew better. He knew I'd come up and tap me on the shoulder, you know.
How fantastic. I love those little family moments, you know, because fame and success with a family, it's just, you know, it's a funny old...
Just great.
Yeah.
It's just great, yeah.
So you're on a hit TV show. Now, am I right in thinking that Gary Marshall wanted to give you your own series, a spin-off?
He did, but Leather Tuscadero made such an impact. You know, I got the second most email after the Fonz, which is ridiculous. I didn't know till one of the ladies there told me. I thought to myself, if I want to do more acting, I'm going to be typecast as Leather Tuscadero for the rest of my days. I was already Suzi Quatro. I didn't need to send it home another way, you know. So, and I did do other things. I did The Minder, I did Dempsey and Makepeace, I did Absolutely Fabulous, I did Midsummer Murders, I did Annie Get Your Gun. So I did other things. I thought that would just box me in too much, so I said no.
But it's a very brave decision because, you know, some people go to LA and they would give their right leg to be in a hit TV show and then get offered a spin-off, like Laverne and Shirley got a spin-off and was number one. I mean, that is either incredibly brave or crazy, you know? Do you ever look back and think,
it would have taken over my life. It would have taken over my life, I think. And I was having hits again, you know, Can't Give Me Love and Stumbling In. So it was a decision I made. It would have become my career. I would have been on a sitcom in America. And I've had such a different career from that. You know, I've been able to do a little bit of everything, which is really what I wanted my whole life.
You know what it reminds me a little bit of? The moment within that your dad said to you, you know, if you leave, the group won't be a success without you. It's kind of like a parallel moment because, you know, you're asked to make a judgment, and what you answered with was your gut.
Yeah, sure. That's all you have to go by. That's all you have to go by. And I knew I was making the right decision. There we go. Okay.
How did Stumbling In come about with Chris Norman? Because Smokey were huge. How did that happen?
Yeah, they were. I was in Cologne recording an album with Mike Chapman, and we went to an award ceremony in the evening in Cologne. And then there was an after hours party with everybody. So lots of famous people there, and they had a band. And me being me, I said, let's go jam. All the other famous people turned me down. They didn't want to, I'm not working tonight. I said, this isn't work, this is fun. So I just grabbed Chris. I grabbed him. I said, come here. I didn't ask him, I grabbed him. So we went on stage and we started to sing. And Mike was there. He liked what he saw. He liked what he heard. And he went home that night and he wrote Stumbling In. Came back in the next day and he said to me, Suzi, get on the piano. I said, okay. He said, give me a mic. And he put on his guitar. He said, tape this. And I'll never forget it. He said, whatever I sing, can you go da 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 da? This is the key. I said, okay. So he went, our love is a lie, da 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 da. And we did the chorus.
Our love is a lie. And so we begin, foolishly laying our hearts on the table, stumbling in. Our love is a flame, burning within. Now and then, firelight will catch us, stumbling in. Wherever you go,
And then he said, great, that's great. Give me the tape. I'll write the verse tonight. That's the genius of the man, actually.
Yeah. And the fact that you played along with, but you know what? Your voices really work well together. What?
It did. It went really, in fact, I'm lucky because that single was great together. And the new one with KT, everybody has commented on the blend of the voices. So you don't know ahead of time if this is going to be blending. I didn't know I was going to blend with Chris until we actually did. And Mike was clever. He had, when we put the vocal down, he had Chris standing and me standing. And he said, I want this to be as if you guys just jumped up, like I saw you, jumped up and started to sing together unplanned. So we sang it to each other, which is why you get that nice performance going back and forth. It worked, you know.
It's like a conversation between two lovers, you know.
Yes, that's what he wanted. He wanted it to be that way. And it works that way, you know. And I've done it with a few people through the years, and I've had to say to them, all you got to do on this song is look me in the eye and sing it to me, because that's what it's about.
Why was there never a follow-up? Because it was number 4 in the US. Were people not saying do
Huge.
another?
It was huge.
Yeah.
I think Chris was very involved with Smokey. He didn't even do he made a big mistake. He agreed to do the video, which we did, and then Top of the Pops called, and we were at number 40 something or 39 or something. I can't remember. My husband remembers all those details. And they said, we want you on the show. And you don't turn down Top of the Pops. You don't do it, because you shoot yourself in the foot. So Chris didn't want to do it. I called him, my ex called him, Chris Mose called him, everybody, he didn't want to do it. And consequently, the UK is the only country in the entire world that this wasn't a huge hit. But everybody knows it. But he made a big mistake on that one. Maybe he didn't want to upset the band. I don't really know. But he ended up leaving the band anyway. So whatever.
There's
history.
Quite often in the industry, you never know what's going on behind the scenes, and the public.
No, you don't.
You know, they really don't read it. That is a real little gem, that track. And I never understood as a kid when I went out to buy it why it wasn't a bigger hit. I was almost like willing it up the charts. And when I look at the
now you know.
yeah,
now you know.
when I looked at the Billboard chart, and I was so pleased. I was like pleased for you. It was like, yes, you know,
Big hit worldwide, and it's what I call one of those evergreens that everybody loves it. So good.
So just briefly, before we go on to KT and your current stuff, you mentioned a couple of your dramas there. You know, how was it like? What was it like working on Minder? Because that was a big TV show.
I loved Dennis Waterman. So sad he passed away. He was a very generous actor. Generous. He's good. He's good. You know, he had something.
So
I remember when we did that kissing scene. I remember thinking, oh, he can kiss. He was a good kisser. He was a good kisser, yeah. So yeah, I enjoyed doing that. That was fun. That was a fun show to act. I got to play an American hippie living in a squat, you know, dope smoker and all that. Got to tough it up. So yeah.
And you know, millions of women, you know, probably wish they'd been kissing Dennis Waterman when you. And now we know you got a real kiss. And then you did Dempsey and Makepeace with an American guy in the show as well. Was that fun?
That was fun. That was scary because I did my own stunt. They had a shot. I died in that one. The director came to me and he said, "You're doing great acting in this." I said, "Thank you." I had to play a little bit crazy woman. I had to look in the mirror, get my eyes to go dead, which was scary when I saw, because the light had gone. That's scary, but I was able to do it. And he said to me, "We got to shoot this scene of you falling off the building to your death. I can do it 2 ways." He said, "I can shoot you doing the scene, or I can shoot the double doing the scene." So I wasn't about to give away all my good work to somebody else. So I'm on that little hoist, you know, hanging off the edge of the building, and he's there with the camera, and I'm ready to let go of the thing I was holding onto and fall down to the mattress. I have 6 floors. So I'm hanging there, and he goes with the camera, he goes, "Okay, scream." I said, "No problem." Scream. That's the easy part.
Wow. You're standing there with the leathers and the bass, and everyone's saying you're ballsy. You lived up to that, you know. So just quickly, you did Ab Fab as well. I mean, that's a real cult show. Was that
That was
fun?
great. That was great. I said to Jennifer Sanders, the game, "Can I have fun with this?" She said, "You can say whatever you want." So I played with the script. I did that sex, drugs, and rock and roll. She was right there, you know. Yeah, that was fun. It's a great show. And I also did Midsummer Murders, which I died in that too. I was electrocuted in that one.
Well, yeah, they've got a thing about killing you off. You were in that. Mike Reed was in that as well, wasn't he? Mike Reed.
Yeah. That was a really nice show to do. I enjoyed that. I had to do that dying scene about 15 times for all the camera angles. And I finally said to John Nettles, "How is it?" And he said, he's leaning over the fence for the scene, and he said, "Best death since Hamlet." I take it as a compliment.
Exactly. Fantastic. Okay, Suzi, look, I've loved going back and talking about your history because you have such a rich history. It's incredible. Let's come up to date and talk about your new work, which is also incredible, with KT Tunstall. It's a beautiful new single. It's climbing up the Heritage chart at the moment. and it's going to be going all over the world. How did it come about, briefly?
Yeah, briefly. I was a fan of her. She was a fan of mine. We didn't know it. And I happened to be viewing a rough cut of Suzi Q, my documentary. And all of a sudden she appeared. So one thing led to another. We knew somebody mutual. He got us together. We met up in London. We did 2 tracks remotely. I sent her something. She sent me something. And then we realized something was going on. So I invited her to the house. We sat down on the front carpet, on the floor, barefoot with all our paraphernalia, and we started to talk. And every single song on this album, discussion about something deep, you know, she gives her opinion of it. We are emotionally exposed on the whole album. And then a song appears, just like somebody drops it from the heavens, you know. So we're good friends. When you see it on the video, you see the relationship. It's very artistic, but it's very vulnerable. I pulled her out, she pulled me out, and we were very honest with each other. So this album is an emotional journey. Shine a Light is a powerful message. It says, my mantra, everybody has a light. Everybody has a light. Doesn't matter what it is, everybody has to go in and find it, turn it on, and let nobody switch it off.
Did you write the lyrics together? Were you in these conversations? Were you piecing the lyrics together?
Absolutely. We'd be saying something and we'd know what was a line, you know. And I, like when I said, you know, everybody's got a light. She went, shine a light. It's Shine a Light. That was the title. So the whole, yes, we talked a lot, but you would pluck out the lines.
Yeah.
She'd write something, I'd write something. We'd both hear different things. And we go, ready, here we go. And the song was called Shine a Light.
Am I right in thinking that your son produced the album? How was that?
Yes, he produced No Control in 2019. He produced The Devil in Me 2021. And I believe my song, My Heart and Soul, got quite high in the Heritage chart.
Yes.
Beautiful video to that. And then he produced Uncovered, my 6 covers EP on Sun label. And then KT actually asked him to produce Face to Face and play guitar on it, which he did. He's done a very good job.
Now, you're a strong personality, and obviously you must get on really well because you've done so much work together. But I just think to myself, if your son's as strong a personality as you, that must be one hell of a studio session.
We have our moments. We have our moments. He's a funny one happened. I was putting down the vocal to My Heart and Soul, I Need You Home for Christmas. And this was going on the final track now. Everything was on it, so I'm not putting down my professional vocal. And I had already done a wonderful demo of this song with a really nice tone in my voice. And everybody's in the studio. So, you know, you're a little bit on show. And he pushes down the button and he says, Mom, you're not doing it. I went, what do you mean I'm not doing it? Immediately got defensive. He said, don't get mad. You're not doing it. He said, I said, what am I not giving you that you need? And I got a little bit mad. And he said, just a minute, Mom, just a minute. And he played me the demo. And I went, because I had done that without thinking in a different kind of voice. And then I was in the studio being Suzi Quatro, putting a vocal down. Not what he wanted at all. So I took a little walk, came back in and sang it like I did on the demo. So that was quite smart of him to know what he wasn't getting. And it was that innocence of singing it the first time. Not professionally, just singing. Yeah, so he's good.
What a good boy to, you know, put his mum straight like that, you know? How often has he got away with that?
Well, not very often. He actually was responsible for letting me see myself completely fresh through his eyes. Mm-hmm. It gave me a boost. You know, I saw me through him. So that's great. And he wanted to reintroduce that same feeling from the very first album. And The Devil in Me accomplished that. He said he was smiling all the time. Yeah, it was great. Great.
How beautiful. You know, you bring your child up, you do your best with them, and then without realizing it, they pay you back because they kind of guide you a little bit to find yourself again or to bring out a side of you that you've left dormant. That's so beautiful. It
is beautiful. I think I gave birth to him, but he gave rebirth to me. I said that many times. Yeah, wow. I didn't see that coming. And he's only done it for me. That's why he's done it. He wanted to do this. He shuns the limelight. You know, he's not an egotistical guy. He's very good. I'm very pleased with him. He's 6'2".
Yeah, but you're not scared of any 6'2" guys, you, Suzi. I know that. So listen, that is a beautiful story to end on, because you know, what better story than your son and you working together? And as you say, your single Shine a Light is raging up the Heritage chart at the moment. It's available to download, and you've been working with Katie. You've got the album Face to Face, which you've collaborated on all the tracks. So I just want to say, Suzi Quatro, thank you for giving me this time to do a bit of a retrospective, you know, kind of you to let us talk and dig back. It's great to still have you here. Never stop, okay? Because you are a life force, okay? Keep fighting on and keep doing it, because this album is fantastic. The single's fantastic. Thank you for joining us on Livewire.
Thank you.
Well, Suzi, what a fantastic conversation. Thank you so much for talking to us today. Some amazing stories from your career from the 70s right up to now, and your current single, Shine a Light. Thank you for joining us. And thank you for watching Livewire this week. I hope you'll join us again very soon for more Livewire.
Okay, I'm about to start my first recording session with Katie. I don't know what the day's gonna bring.
I can't keep talking all day long, you know, because I'm doing the studio.
So opportunity knocked on my door. I chose to let it in. I picked my backbone off the floor, 'cause I had to fight to win. And now this movie can begin. You say I'm down to earth from what you see. You say I'm normal, but what does that mean? Shine a light on me, shine a light on me, shine a light on me, oh let me be. 'Cause there's a light in me, no matter what you see. Shine a light on me, oh let me be. Words are never written how they read. Tell me, do you really want to know the end? The plot is always thicker than it